this one here is simply going to look at these values out here, and it's going to tell us whether this is within range or out of range. So again, this one says that if it's greater than 2,000, if the quarter, whatever that quarter one or quarter three is, greater than 2,000, then we're going to put yes, it's within range. Right, and then you put a no in there, similar to what we just did a minute ago. We can just cut and paste that out. And we're going to come back to here, I think. And cut and paste that code down below here. And that's very simple code that we just kind of did a minute ago. Push my F8 key. Or F8, yeah. And it's going to look specifically at D5 there, see it? It's going to look at D5, so it doesn't have to physically be there, it looks like. But what we should do is convert this to something more general, okay? So there's my node there. Okay? So let's convert this over to, so that we can make it so that it runs kind of in a sequential mode, maybe a do loop or something like that. But we want to make these commands more general. So what we want to start with is we're going to put this as an active cell rather than at this specific location. And then down here, we're going to make this an active cell. And then we're going to put an offset down at the bottom down here. And then we can put our looping around it. Okay, so let's go through and put in our active cell here. Active cell value is less than 2,000. And then here we're going to put an active cell. Actually, it's not. We want to put an active cell offset, right? Offset. So how do we want to offset it? 0 in the rows and a -3 in the columns. -3, dot value. We want to put the answer over here. We're going to put the word yes in there. So we have the same code we're going to be using for this range down here. And then we can run this to see if it's going to work first. Maybe it's going to store it in the right positions. And then we can add our do loop around that. So open F8. Should put the no there. This should put in, it's not offsetting, see it? It's not going down. So I forgot my offset. So I'll probably just use this code right up here because this is what I used before. Worked. So I'll drop that in here. Oh. So then we'll run this again. See if we can get it to push down a little bit. Drop down. Now it's going to run it again. The yes in there. And it's going to run through this way. Okay. Good. So now we can move up and we can put our do loop in here and fix up the code to do this automatically. So we're going to cut this do loop out of here. We're going to put the do loop right here and simply there's the else statements. Now, would the loop go after or before this? So I'm going to put it after because I want it to run through all of these first and then offset down and then go to the next and run it again. And so let's make sure the code, this is going to offset correct. It didn't offset properly here, see it? So we're going to look at do until the active cell, we don't want to do an offset, I think. We want to do just the active cell. See, we want to just go say that this is the cell I'm looking at. When this cell is blank, on this cell right here, then we want to drop out of the do loop. So I'll go back and clear out this first so I can make sure I get it's actually going to work. I'll start here. And you can even get more sophisticated on this, where I could actually say, maybe we can put some sort of counter in there that simply says that always go to D5 for the first count, for the count of 1. And if it's 1, then, see, this is my first run through. And that way I won't have to actually physically go there. It will actually know to always go to D5 for the first run. But the second run, then don't go to D5. See, so you might do something like that. So in this case, you can simply say, I'll make sure the code's working first. So do until the active cell, which is here, equals null. So no, it's not null, so keep going until it's null. When it's null, drop out. And even at the bottom here, we can put in a message box. Put a double quote and say finished. So we know that when it drops out of the loop, it's going to have a little message box that says that do loop is finished. You could also put in some other code on top that says that if it's D5, if it's anything other than D5, then maybe we can define it that way. So we can do something like that. Let's just see if this is going to work first. I'm going to do the debug first to see if it's going to find it. There's that. So, okay, it's going to drop out. That's going to be a no. Then it's going to offset 1. Now it's going to go to the next row, but it loops back. And it's going to continue going through that. And then it's going to loop back. And it's going to continue going through that until it finishes. And then I can simply say at this point, I kind of got it working. So I can hit the run button. It finishes the cell. It said finish. Dropped out of the do loop. Okay. So that is how that works. And come down to the logical statements here. And look at a few others. This is the nested if statement, and this is why I like to copy this code, because it gets a little bit complicated. What this simply says is it's looking for 2 numbers. It's going to put in the word short and the word medium or long, depending on the length of it. And so if it's less than 12, it's going to be short. If it's less than 15, which is between 12 and 15, then just put medium, otherwise make it long. So that way we can just copy this. We can put it in place. It's very similar to the previous one we did about the length function. And I'm just going to run it the way it is. So I'm going to see if it's going to work first. So this dimension, here's our name length. Oh, we have to start somewhere first. So we have to start in this cell here. And so there's puts the length of that in there, and you can look at the variables down below, put 10 in there. And then it puts the short in the definition there, then it drops out of the if statement. Then it goes to offset. It's going to put the answer next to it. and it's put 10 is short. See, it actually puts in a concatenation right here too. So it's patching the variable name with the word is, and then the description name in there. So we have to run this again, and I didn't offset it, so it's going to run it on the same field. So if you just run it again, it's going to run it in the same field each time. So we can put our little offset down here. And in sub, oops. Okay. So this is a nested if. You can see there's the nested if there. And then here's the if here. So there's your if, else, and then this is nested underneath of the else statement. And then it will drop off at the end and move down one, and then we can run it again. So this is going to put in didn't do anything, did it? Oh, it did put it in there. Right, then I'll do it again. Just going to put it in as long. And there's long, short, medium. Just going to go through each one of them. So again, if you have to have multiple items in, you can put a nested if like this, and then you can put another nested if under here if you wanted to. It gets a little bit tedious, but the case select statements is used to solve that problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and just move on to some others. Very similar code. So this here is a GoTo statement. And so GoTo is not a programmer's tool. I mean, most programmers don't like using the GoTo statement because they like to structure the logic so that it will flow and drop out when it needs to drop out. But the GoTo statement, you can stick the GoTo statement in the middle of a routine. And you see here it says go to big. So then it goes to this statement here, and then it runs this. But then it says go to out. So this one here says go to small, and then it jumps down to the small here, runs this command, and then it goes to out. And it drops out. See, so if you say drop out, yeah, it just go to out, it just jumps to the out at the end of the routine. So this is sort of jumps around a little bit, but if you encounter a problem in the middle of the routine, you could use the GoTo to say jump out. Stop, don't continue running this routine. So looks like we're going to copy that out. Looks like it says go to D5, okay. It says here, just run the code, but I'm not sure what cell we need to start in. We start over here. So we're looking for this range, this name range here. So looks like we're going to start in cell D here. Paste that in there. You can see that there's your if statement, go to. Here's your go to small, in depth. So here is your big. Here's your go to out. Here's your small, and here's your out here. There. So that's how it works. So basically, if this one here is true, then go to big, and it will define the big area. If it's small, then go to the small, and then define that area, and then we're going to drop out. I think we're going to start, we don't have to do any work because the physical dimensions are there, so the physical addresses are in there. So let me just run it. Just run it. So it says if D5, which is 15,568, which is greater than 1,500, then it says, then go to big. So it's going to drop down to big, and it's going to actually put the value big in cell A5. And then it says, okay, I'm done, jump out. It jumps out. And so it drops out of the routine. So again, it's not something that when I talk to programmers, full-time programmers, they don't really like using these GoTo buttons. But once in a while, you might want to use it to jump out of a routine. So go to the next one here. This one here is using the Elself statement. So here we have, if this is true, then else if do this. If that's not true, then else if do this. And keep doing these else ifs until the default occurs. So if nothing it gets satisfied up here, then we simply want to come down here and actually just put a default value in there. See? So it looks like we're using this to modify the bonus. And we're going to the active cell, so we have to actually start in a specific cell. So start in cell C5, and we'll run this, and we're going to look at the bonus. And if certain conditions occur, they want to give them a bonus. We're going to take the active cell, whatever we're physically at, and we're going to put that into we're going to multiply that times a rate to give them a bonus based on this current status right here. So we're going to select the code, click on C5, C5 right there, and we're going to put the code in here. See that here's my bonus. Here's my selection from my offset. Here's my else if. Bonus. My else. So it's going to go through and look at status. If the status is equal to 1, in this case it's equal to 2. Now we can put our offset in here, so we just run this multiple times. Let me find my cell offset here. This is my offset. So let's go through and run this to see if it's going to follow the logic. The first one is if the cell value is equal to 1. So it's not equal to 1, right? So it's going to jump over. It's going to jump to the else if. Now it says if it's equal to 2, and that's true. So it is equal to 2. So therefore, it's going to do the bonus of 0.2. So there it takes the bonus. Now look at the bottom down here. You see the bonus actually shows what it actually put in there. Then it drops out. Then we run it again, do an active cell offset. And there it is again. Put 0.4. I don't know if that's what I really wanted to do. Probably should have put, maybe multiply it times 1.1 or something like that, 1.03. This one here is a 3, so it dropped out of 2. There's my 3, now it's going to run that value. 2. Offset. Yeah. I wonder if I should have put in here the active cell value. I don't know why I did that. I should have taken the bonus. Where's the bonus out here? I don't see it. I should have just taken this here maybe, and this quarter total, or maybe the total over here, and multiply it, something like that. But you get the idea that the logic is working fine. Okay. Okay, so down here, so this one here is just a few of the variations that I found. I found that you could put in, here's your if statement here, and then the else statement, we usually put the else, and then we put a return and put the code in under it. I found that if you put a colon right there, you can put the else statement right next to it. So it just saves a little bit of, if you have like a lot of else ifs, whole bunch of them, and you're only doing one command, then you can put a colon here, put them in just real serial, end to end. So just a little variation of a style I found. Works. And saw it in code one time, and I thought, that's interesting. So that's how it works. All right, so we're going to use our logical here. Case select statements are a little bit easier than if statement. And this is if we're looking for multiple things. So the way it works is there's three different types of case select statements. The case is, which is if it is less than 3, because the next style is if it's between a certain range from 0 to 2, and the next style is from putting commas between each value. So we could just pick one out and we could just change it accordingly. But the idea of this one is I'm looking for this status. And if the status is equal to 3, then do this. If it's equal to 8, then do this. If it's equal to 12, then do this. And so I'll just cut this code out. And this allows us to look for multiple cases. And you can imagine doing this in a if statement. It would have nested ifs and all sorts of stuff. But it's pretty straightforward. You just say case, 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 and it goes right on down the list. The last case is the else case, which just comes in there. So we're going to look like we're going to go over to, I'm not sure where we're going to go here, but it's like we're going to go over to this field here, and we're going to specify if the length is long again. So we'll come over to here, and we'll click on this cell here, and that code in. And so essentially it just looks at the select case, and this is the case we're looking for, and then it evaluates the result of this length multiple times. Okay? That's all it does. So if I run it, it's going to say, here's the length, and you look at your, we didn't put a variable in there, but you would have been able to see it, the variable at the bottom. This is equal to 3, so it's not equal to 3, right? So it's going to jump over it. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now there's 9 in there, so that will jump over it, this one too. And then it's going to do the 12. And so if you have a list of 100 different items that you need to evaluate, the case select would work really, really well. And so that's the idea of the case. Now, the other variations of this is putting in just the number. So I can say like a 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2. It's less than 3. If I put a 1 and a 2 here, I could put in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that replaces that code. This one here is going to be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is less than 12. And then this down here says anything that's out of that range, then drop down here and do this. You can use commas in here this way. Or you can use the is greater than, is less than, that type of thing, whichever makes more sense. So in this case, I could delete this so we can see it actually work. And run. Oops. All right, so we're just going to go B5. It's just going to run it. And it's going to evaluate 1 and 2. It's not 1 or 2 characters. It's not, doesn't fall in that range either. And then it falls in that range, and so it doesn't. So it drops out. So anything that's really, really large, then it will simply not work at all. So the case selects are very handy to have. And again, what's important about this is you're not going to remember all these details. So it's nice to have the book to be able to refer back to say, okay, what were the different styles and what were the variations I could use? So you can take this variation here and say, well, that isn't really exactly what I'm looking for. I can take this style and say, well, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. This one works better. Between the three of them, this one seems to be the best approach because I'm looking for specific things. You can decide what you want to do here. Now you can also put in here text string. I can put a double quote, and I'm looking for a specific name or a specific item. I can put it as a text string too. So that works either way with that. So, and then you have nested ifs, which I don't use very much, but could be used to do that. Okay, so in this case, we're going to write a little program to do this. We're going to simply say that we're going to open up this employment file, and we're going to give them a raise based on their status. So if their status is equal to 2, then we want to give them a 5% raise. If their status is equal to 3, then we're going to give them a 7% raise. If their status is 4, we're going to give them a 10% raise right down the line. Okay? So we're going to write some code to do those statuses. Then it says use the nested if statement to calculate the raise. This switches over to a case select statement because it gets a little tedious with the nested if. So we'll just do a case select statement with this, and then we're going to come along and say offset it and then continue to run it again. And see over here we have our salary, and then we have a raise over here. That tells me how much of a raise they're going to get based on their status. See right there? And then it says here, it says write the program in a case select statement, convert the if statement to the nested if statement to a case select. So we'll just do the case selects first, and then we'll go from there. And I did put the code in here upside down, so if you are stumped on these little questions, you can actually, going back later, maybe looking through this, you can still see the code there. So let's do that. So we're looking at this stuff. I'm going to actually cut and paste this so I can remember this information, and I'll put this into my code just so I have a reference of what I want to do these numbers for. So we're going to open up this employment file, and we're going to write the case select. We're going to open up employment. File open. Looking for, I think I had it open earlier. There's employment there. And we're going to put our answers over here. We're going to evaluate these two values. Evaluate this, multiply this times the percentage in order to get this. We're going to go to our basic, come down to our employment status. We're going to insert a module. And I'll put this code in like this. So I'm going to put in my sub raise. Okay, and I'm going to put this right in the notes above it here. And I'll put a comment in front of it, just so I have this as a reference. And I won't have to go back and switch back and forth between the other screen. Okay, so if the status is 2, we're going to give them a 5% raise. If it's a 3, we're going to give them 7 on our line. Okay, so we're going to simply say that down here. We can put our cursor possibly right here as a starting point, and we can pull this answer from the offset and then put the answer offset the other direction. Does that sound good? Okay, so we can start with our if statement, or we're going to do a select statement, select case. So we're going to do a select case. I think that is correct, select case. And we say, yeah, sometimes I get these words, different programs use different things. We're going to do a select case, and then we're going to identify what we're going to evaluate, which is the active cell, basically. And then we're going to look to the left, and we'll look to the right, okay? So actually, we don't want to do that. I'm wrong on that. So we want to look at the status first. So we're going to say active cell dot offset, and then we're going to go 0, -1, 0, comma, -1, dot value. Okay, so that is the input to the case select statement. And we're going to evaluate what this number is. So this happens to be the F field. And so we're going to evaluate that. So that's how you start off the select case. Then you say case What's the first case? First case is going to be 2, right? Second case is going to be 3, 4, and 7. So if the case is 2, if that's true, okay, if that case is 2, then we want to, I forget if we can put a colon here or not, but I've done that in several program languages. If it's equal to 2, then what do we want to do? We want to take the offset, right? No, we want to take the salary times the raise, okay? So the salary is going to be the active cell dot value. Actually, that's not true. We're gonna save this off here. So it's going to be the active cell offset 0, 1 dot value. Down here. So the active cell, and then we're going to offset it by 1. So we're going to come over to this position here, H, okay? And we're going to say that's going to be equal to the active cell dot value times, in this case, the raise is at 5%. So it'd be
0.05.
0.05, okay, like that. There's our first case. So we're going to take the active cell is going to be here. This is going to be the active cell. And so we're going to take the status. If the status is equal to 2, that's true, then we want to actually take the active cell offset, which is, we want to put the answer in H2. But we want to grab the active cell value and multiply it times 0.5. But the answer is going to go in the H2. So I'll take this. And I forget if I can use this colon or not. I'm not sure if I can. What am I saying? What am I doing here? Is there a space here or something? Oh, I had, no. Step 1, 2. Well, there's no colon here, so all the problem is this here. Okay. This is going to be case 4. And look at the document look like. See, I show that you can't put a colon here. See that? You put it underneath of it like this. But in some program languages, I've actually used the colon here, and then the answer goes to the colon here. So I'm going to try it just to see if it's going to work. If that works, it works in other program languages, but I haven't seen that in this one. But I'm going to try it to see. So I can put that here. Do it again. Look at all these cases. And this is going to be case 3. It could be 4. This would be 3. This would be 7. We also have a case, final case. If it's not one of these, then we don't want to give them a raise, possibly. This one's going to be 0.7. This one's going to be 10. And this one's going to be 12. So I found that case, we can do that. Now, I don't know if this is going to work. I think it will, but we'll see it. I'll try it out. Now, the other thing I want to do, the default case, if it's a status that doesn't exist up here, we want to put in the case else, and then put in what we want to multiply there. In this case, I would put case else, and I will put in here just the value. I won't put anything. I'll put 0. See it? So I'll say the active cell is equal to 0, meaning we're not giving them a raise. So we're going to put the active cell like this is equal to 0. There's no raise.
Could you do like if there was no 2, 3, 4, 7, then you would just still offset it, but just multiply by 0?
You could just do the same code, right? Just multiply times 0, sure.
Or is
That
that
would-
not like, that's just like a workaround, but that's not really like a professional way to
No,
think
it's
about
fine. It's fine. I mean, I'm just saying here that if you could take this here and just multiply this times 0, which ends up being 0. See what I'm saying? All right.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. So either way, the raise is 0, not giving them a raise at all. See? And the other way you can do this is you can simply take the active cell value plus, you can do it this way too, plus, because then you want to take, you don't want to know what the raise is, you want to know what the take-home pay is.
I see. Total.
So
I get
so
it.
you can do that too. So in this case, if you put this in here, then you would have to put something down here. Just put the actual current
Right.
salary in there, meaning they're not getting any increase at all. See it?
Yeah.
So that's the other way to look at this. So we can do it either way. But I still haven't figured out if this is going to work yet. My little colon.
I don't know if it does. I think I tried it. I tried it and
Mhm.
it didn't go through. Maybe I did it wrong, you know.
Yeah, I know. You see, I'll just run mine. Like I said, I've done that in other languages before, but I haven't tried it here yet. So I thought I'd just give it a shot. You always learn lots of different things here. So it's doing something here. It's still not letting me do it. See, it's still having a problem. So there's some problem here. So I'll just do it without it. And like this. And see if it works. This without it. Again, I do this once in a while. I just play around and just try different things like this. And lo and behold, it works sometimes. So still having a select problem here, isn't it? So here we have, all this is commented out. So case select, we're taking the after offset, so the, should be there. If it's the case is equal to 2, to make sure my format is all correct. Yep, so it goes to case 1 or 2. There's no comma at the end of it, so that works. And case select, put my input value here. Oh, it's interesting. So this, why do I have a parenthesis on the back side of that? That's weird, huh? Oh, yeah, that's the length. Yeah, that's the length, okay. So select case is what we're looking for in case. Let's correct. Oh, I forgot my end case. My end case, see? So we have to put the end case at the end of the group. That would be the end select, it's called. So we have to put the end here, end select. That should work. I'll take it back to this colon to see if I can get this to. And so this like it is working too. Here's my 2. This offset should go underneath down here. Yeah, no, it's double colon. No, this is, I'm sorry about that, that's wrong. That's the else statement, sorry. That's my else statement. I want to put an offset down here so I can test it out to see if I can offset. I'm going to come down 1, 0. I can see it run. Okay, so I'm going to start over. And, okay, so it looks like my colons are working. See? Did that. And down 1. So the colon did work. The style did work. It's interesting. And then down here, I've got like a 8. Run it a bunch of times. Four. There. There's my 8. Let's see what it's going to do there. So it did drop down to the else statement, and I put my 0 in there. Okay. I'll set again. So there it goes. So you see how it makes it a little more streamlined. See with these items here. So there's another possible variation of that. And that's pretty much it for the case select statements that I wanted to cover. And, I wanted to show you these different styles, of course, but you can choose the different styles, of course, in the nested if. And that's pretty much it. Good. All right, so again, it's pretty easy, I think, once you get this basic structure and format in case. So again, it's really important for you to refer back to the book. I'm not trying to point you to the book, but if you go out to the internet and look, you could spend hours looking for stuff, you know what I mean? Looking at videos and stuff like that. But my code is very concise and very straightforward, and I have different examples in there. So you can probably take my code and find something that will fit your situation pretty close. And then, and that way, if it's faster to do it that way, if it's not, then go to the internet. But I'm just saying that the idea of the book is the code does work. I've seen some changes occur over the versions, that once in a while the version change and the code stopped working. But for the most part, it works in most versions that I've encountered. And it looks like there's other variations that occur in here. Message box is the next topic.